Yes. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Alan Nakagawa. I mean, I know everybody in here, but hey, Michael. Let's see. I'm the artist in resident here at the temple. I've been so since 2019. Is that right? Okay. And today, I was asked to chair today's service, which is amazing. And it's my first time. And I asked Max Geldman to join me, so we're co-chairing. And we both have worked on several projects here. Max is with Side Street Projects, but he's also an artist and an amazing woodworker. Later on, you'll see his work. Okay. I have a paragraph to read, so bear with me. I didn't actually look at this. Okay, welcome to today's Sunday service. My name is Alan. That's actually blank. Today's service is being officiated by Reverend Gregory Gibbs. Our organist is Kathy Kumagai. Our videographer is Alan Goto. Alan's got the collar shirt, white, grayish, bluish collar shirt back, who is joining today's service for live streaming. Words to today's sutra and gathas will be shown on the TV. Thank you for attending today's service. On the first Sunday of each month, today, we observe a monthly memorial service known as Shotsuki Hoyo, in honor of those members of our Buddhist community that have passed away during the respective month, November, in which this service is being held. Sensei will now read the names of those loved ones passed away in the month of November, in whose memory this morning service is being conducted. For those individuals observing today's service, in recognition of your deceased family members, please come forward as Sensei reads the name of your departed loved one and burn incense in their honor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alan. And I will, for clarity's sake, lose the mask. Most of you are a good 30 feet away. I have had 3 vaccinations so far, too. I want to thank Alan for chairing the service along with Max. I want to thank Max for his help. Also, we already mentioned that our chief videographer is indeed Alan Goto, but he is being helped today by Bobby Fukumoto. And this is our record high attendance since we've reconvened about 2 months ago. I think we're at 21 or 22 today. That's good. There are temples that only have 21 or 22 members, so we're pleased to be here. I will now do this very important thing, which is to read the names of those friends and family members who have passed away in the month of November. Shotsuki Hoyo, as you were told, the exact month of return for someone who's passed. And if you have a loved one who passed away in the month of November and we don't have their name down, let me know. We'll be happy to add that name. There's no charge for that. Then again, I will begin reading the names of those we have lost in the month of November, one year or the other. Firstly, Akiyama Joe S. Arashige Harumi. Atagi Richard Kazuo. Doi Mio. Fujikawa Kusta. Fujitaki Asakichi. Gibbs Myrtle Louise. Goto Takaichi. Goto Tsune. Hatakeyama Seitaro. Hayashi Yoshie. Hatta Shigeo. Inoue Yoshiko. Inoue Fred Yutaka. Ishida Saku. Ishikawa Irene Kikuyo. Iwamoto Yoshiko. Kawamoto Frank Fujio. Kiriyama Masaichi. Kobayashi Kentaro. Konishi Tamiko, Masumoto Toshio, Matsuba Masae, Mito Ryoichi, Miyahara Torakichi, Miyashita Hirofumi, Nagai Toru, Nagatani Kiyoshi, Nakata Terry, Nishimoto Hui, Nishimoto Miyuki, Nishimura Eitaro, Nishioka Ogawa Kiku, Otani Kinu, Rikimaru Sano Hanae, Shigeishi Tatsu, Shigeno Jack Shigeru, Shintaku Minori, Teramae Emi, Tokinobu Kimi, Tokuda Hiroshi, Uchiyama Sakae, Ueda Kazumi, Ue Tanaka George, Wakabayashi Yoshikichi, Yamaguchi Kome, Yamane Seiichi, Yamasaki Ikaku, Yamasaki Takane, Yamashita Kiyoshi, Yamatoda Matsuko, Yonesawa Kinichi, Yonesawa Yuko, Yuri Hatsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Butsu, Namo Butsu. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yep. All right. For the opening meditation, I decided I went through a book of poems by Hafiz, who's a 14th century Sufi poet, and I selected 2 poems to read for today.
Sorry, we're supposed to stand.
Oh, sorry. Rewards for clear thinking. Think about this for a second. God, being God, having infinite knowledge, not only knew your every thought and action, your life would ever experience, even before you were born, but he also, being the divine creator, has etched every moment of your existence with his own hand, with the precision and care no artist ever could. Think about this for a moment. I have never heard a bird or the sun ever say to God, "I am sorry." There seems to be a great reward for clear thinking. All existence is a pawn in the friend's hand. Look, one gets wings and gifts to the world, music each morning. One turns into such an extraordinary light, he actually becomes a sustainer of a whole planet. One makes 1,000 moons go mad with love and blush all night. When one can surrender the illusion, the clutch of free will, they still live for the benefit of others, the highest of moral codes. And then this is the second poem. Throw me on a scale. Today, love has completely gutted me. I am lying in the market like a filleted grouper, speechless, every desire and sinew absolutely silent. I am still so fresh. Everything is now the same to me. Listen, the touch of a beautiful woman as she lifts me near, drawing my scent into her body, she thinks about taking me home. the touch of a wondrous fly drinking my vital fluids through a strange shaped flute, the sun laying its radiant gaze against my cheek, human voices and the breeze from the passing horse's tail all send miraculous currents into my world. God's beauty has split me wide open. Throw Hafiz on the scale, wrap me in cloth, bring me home. Lift a piece of my knowledge to your lips so I can melt inside of you and sing. Please be seated.
Next we'll be going to the Suture Chanting. Today it's San Butsuge. If you have a book, it's on page 33. Otherwise, it will be on the screen and be read by Reverend Gibbs. Followed by, oh, I'm sorry, I'll be back. Thanks.
Busatsu Daimuryo Jukyo Sanbutsuge Kogen Gigi Kijin Mugoku Nyose Enmyo Muryo Tosya Ichigat Mani Shuko Enmyo Kaishtonpe Yunyaku Jumoku Nyorai Yogen Chosemurin Shogaku Daion Koru Jippo Kaimon Shojin Amai Chie Itoku Muryo Shusho Keiu Dintai Zennen Shobuten Hokai Bujinjin no Kungo Gaitai Unyo Yokumu Seison Yomu Minno Shishi Jintoku Muryo Shukun Kodai Chie Jinyo Omyo Itho Shindo Daisen Ganga Sabuten Daisho Ho Kado Shoji Mihuge Daten Puthe Joey Kainin Shojin Yove Samai Chie Ijo Ote Tokubuten Fugyo Shigan Isai Kuku Isadai On Keshi Ubuten Yakuten Nokuman Muryo Daisho Shunyong Oja Kuyo Isai Shito Shobuten Hunyong Udo Kensho Hunyaku Hinyong Oja Shobuten Sekai Ufu Kage Mushu Sendo Komyo Shisho Kenshi Shokokunyo De Shojin Ijin Nanryo Rogata Buten Kudo Daichi Goshu Kimyo Ojo Chozetsu Kokunyo Nayon Minuto To Aimin Isai Jippo Aisho Shinnetten Shoujo Ito Gakoku Keku Anon Obut Shinyo Zegashin Shotsugan no Hi Rikisho Shoyoku Jippo Seison Shie Muge Joryo Shison Shiga Shinyo Kiryo Shinshi Shoku Dokuchu Wagyo Shojin Jinju Huke
Will the Sangha please rise for the Gatha, which will be on the screen, and remain standing for the reflective recitation. Today's recitation is Four Noble Truths.
Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Nabutsu, Namo Amida Butsu. If you would join for the reading of the Four Noble Truths. First truth, dukkha, difficulty. Dissatisfaction comes from not living in accord with the truth of impermanence and interdependence. Samudaya, arising. The delusion of self-importance expressed through greed and anger is the cause of dukkha. So you're supposed to go up one step at a time, which is fine. It shows a kind of a seriousness, but it also kind of makes you look like you're gimpy. It's like you might have broke your ankle on the way. So I'm okay. Just see me do that again, that's why. That's how you're supposed to do it. Namo Amida Butsu. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom, light, and endless life. Namo Butsu. Well, thanks to everyone who is helping us produce and broadcast this service. Thank you for participating in this service, whether you're here with us in Pasadena or watching on YouTube at a later time. We are still living in this hybrid reality, so I'm not sure when some of you are observing this actual service. So I want to let you know, besides the Shotsuki Hoyo theme, which I will explain in a minute, I'm also going to ask you to listen to me talk about finding our direction as Buddhists. Shotsuki Hoyo itself, of course, being a monthly memorial service. But after I address that, I want to look at Shinran's statement, Nemutsu no mizo makoto nite owashimasu, which translates as the Nemutsu alone is true and real. But I want to talk about that as a direction for living, and not as saying this is Nemutsu no mizo makoto nite owashimasu means I'm encountering truth. It doesn't mean that's not true. It means I got this here. A path, a way to find your way. And those of you who know me well know that the only thing that I'm worse at than technology is directions. And so finding your direction is really an important metaphor for me, and it's a pretty close model of what we're doing. I will contrast our Jōdo-shinshu way of finding direction to the old Zen, really Chan, classic saying from Chinese Buddhist tradition, which is, walking the great way is easy, just omit picking and choosing. That's what Zhao Chengchen, Zhao Shou Chongchen, when you accept, is that they're going to give you a name. This guy, very important in Japanese Buddhism, Zhao Kongchen. But Japanese people did not want to say that, so in Japan he's known as Joshu. I like to, actually, his father, Kakue Miyagi, Paul was, but he tried rather than giving a new name. Up on old Zhao Zhou Tong and Joshu. A great teacher in 9th century China, known as Shu, said, walking so omit picking and choosing. Before that being so we live, death. Very important matter. Shotsuki Hoyo, again, is the monthly memorial service. My mother passed away November 24th of 1992. So November Shotsuki Hoyo services are especially meaningful to me. All in all, she was the best person I knew. My mother was flawed and imperfect, and she needed buffers and cushions to get through this life. And one of those buffers, tobacco. But I do want to go on to talk to you about finding direction in life, and it does closely follow the analogy of finding one's way driving around, I think, having as much trouble with that as I do. And yesterday, I went to Colton. I'm not sure where that is. I was there yesterday. I'm still not sure where it is. But I went to Colton, and I went to the, oh, come on, I gotta know this, the Montecito Memorial Park in Colton. And so, you know, I've done about 500 funerals in my career. And so I figured probably about 200 to 300 burial services. And I can't tell you how many hours I've spent driving around Rose Hills looking for the burial site, you know. So I go to this place in where's it called, Colton? And I drive up to the front gate, and it wasn't too hard to find. I drive up to the front gate, one purple and one, and the blue Fujiwara. The purple one says Gonzalez, and the red one says Williams. So Fujiwara this way, I drive 700 yards this way. There's another arrow, Fujiwara this way. I drive 100 yards that way. It's right there. Just in 27 years of ministry and 300 times of going to Buddha, forms like Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. I rely on the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Shouldn't understand this. This is true and real. He's giving us direction. But I want to suggest to you that he's just saying, here's some directions you can actually follow. Some of the other directions work too, if you can follow them. Zen tradition gives us some good teachers who give good directions. I know Buddhist tradition. I always understood the directions that I got from Kobun Chino Okawa, from Roshi Robert Aitken. I never misunderstood Masao Abe. You know, I had a very warm relationship. But there's also some teachers in that tradition and in our tradition that give bad advice, that give bad directions. confusing directions. In Shinshu, we have what I consider to be, for most of us, what I consider to be terrible directions that we get from Haguri Sensei in the Nishi tradition and from Maeda in the Higashi tradition. They both advised us to consider ourselves to be fundamentally and thoroughly evil. You are an evil person, now go live a good life. How does that work? Well, I'm not giving you that advice. Those sorts of directions for that dour vision might work for somebody, but it sure wouldn't work for me, and I don't advise anybody to look at it that way. I am not an evil person. Like my own mother, I am flawed and imperfect. I rely on cushions. I'm not evil. So we have some teachers in Jodo Shinshu as well, or at least we have teachers who give ideas that are idiosyncratic and would be disastrous for 90% of us to follow. And that, like maybe one Jodo Shinshu Buddhist in 10 can live like that. I'm an evil person, but I'm going to do my best anyway. No, that's it's not true. So admitting that every stream of Buddhist tradition includes some teachers giving some directions which would be confusing for most of us, let me mention in particular what's wrong with the advice that Zhongzhou Kongshen, or Joshu, gives us. His advice again is, walking the great way is easy, just refrain from picking and choosing. So can you avoid picking and choosing? For how long? 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes? How long can you refrain from preferring one thing to another, one idea to another? How long can you refrain from picking and choosing, and to what purpose? I think the purpose is that you can see everything as worthy and holy, right? If you don't choose, then there's all one big beautiful thing you love. That could be good, but it's only half of the Buddhist teaching. The Buddha's teaching is that life is one and worthy in all of its respects, but dangerous and not worth continuing in some of its respects. I wish no one harm, but there's half a dozen people I would like to see again. 5 of them live in Berlin, and 1 of them lives in Fresno. I have so many friends in Fresno, I better mention the one guy I never want to see is Art Garcia. And there's another Art Garcia I just love that I used to work with. So, how can I say this? No, I can't say this. How one is one and one's the other, but I can't stand that guy, you know. He was in personnel when I got fired from one of the hospitals I was fired from. My usual way of leaving a job is by being fired. The reason that's often given is insubordination. Insubordinate, me. Can you believe that? Fools. But the point is, you can't love everybody as much as you love your mother and your best friend and your life partner. You cannot, I cannot. We're normal human beings. We got to pick and choose. We've got to. There's no one on this planet I wish harm to again, but there's half a dozen people I really wish never to see again, if I may be saved that difficulty. My advice as a Buddhist priest is to avoid the people you routinely do not get along with. Avoid them as best you can. Choose not to see them when you can. My directions are pick and choose carefully. As directions for living, avoid picking and choosing is impossible for most of us, and it's a bad idea for almost all the rest of us. One person in 10,000 can live without choosing and deciding and not become an insufferable bore. Shinran's advice, Nembutsu no mizo makoto nite awashimasu, the Nembutsu alone is true and real, is an advice to put the promise of goodness and awakening for all as the central landmark in your living. This commitment to the well-being of all, to the illumining, to goodness and wholesome living for all, that can be our landmark. That can guide us on our journey. The Nembutsu, Namamidabutsu, as an expression of kindness and inclusion. Kindness and inclusion, this is our central direction. Walking with the Nembutsu is a possible form of walking the Great Way. Living with a Nembutsu is living by directions that you can actually follow. Do you think that the Nazi dentist Joseph Mengele was as valuable as your mother? I don't think so. I think your mother was more valuable. The fact you're here today. And I think my mother was more valuable. But I don't wish him suffering, and I don't say he should have been annihilated. He should have been put a special place by himself where he wouldn't hurt anybody. I choose your mother, my mother, as more wholesome and more valuable than the famous Nazi dentist Joseph Mengele. Inform yourself on important issues, and then choose. There's no escape from choosing and picking. Shinran advises you to pick the Nembutsu to help you guide you on your path. Remembering that the intent of the Nembutsu is everyone is welcome to enter the realms of truth and goodness. Remembering this, what we are really saying when we say Namo Amida Butsu is everyone is welcome to enter the realms of truth and goodness. Will you choose the Nembutsu path? The directions are simple. Say the Nembutsu occasionally. Recall that this is the invitation to awakening, and try to be nice when you can. You've all heard the current Dalai Lama quoted as having said, be nice whenever it's possible. It's always possible. I'm telling you, be nice whenever possible. It's sometimes possible. It is sometimes. It really is. For you and me, during our daily life, always? Absolutely not. It's just not for me. Absolutely not. There are times when I'm going to be not nice. But I try to be nice. And I try to be aware of my limitations, my many limitations. These are the directions that are easy to follow. Say the Buddha's name occasionally, Namo Amida Butsu. Realize this is a promise to every living being. You will be taken care of. You are welcome. You are included. Like those blue cardboard arrows with Fujiwara written on them yesterday at the cemetery, there is a path here I can follow. Our directions for Nembutsu living are simple. The path for us is clear. I can follow this path. I can understand these directions. Walk with me. Those who wish to, please join me in a closing gasho, closing the Dharma message portion of the service. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend. Uh-oh, what's Alan going to say? I'm going to take this off. For the closing, I'm supposed to read something. I chose this. It's a little self-serving. It has to do with our tour later. So this is titled Photography. It's relevant because I wrote it when I was the artist in resident. People stand? Really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, that's all right. Okay, sorry, please stand. It's long. Okay, so I was the artist in residence at the No Mio Photo Archive at Cal State Dominguez Hills' Girth Archives. And towards the end, I gave 4 workshops, 2 to a local high school and 2 to the art students at the university. And the last thing in the workshop is I asked them to pick a photo from the Nanomio Photo Archives and do a black and white watercolor of that, which ended up in the show that I had there. So while they were doing that, I read this to them. So it's called Photography. If time is a construct, then we already have the ability to travel in it. The family photo album could be a vehicle. Case study number 1. When I was very young, my grandfather pulled out his family photo album. As he thumbed through the pages, he showed me young versions of him and my grandmother. I remember the experience as almost silent. All these various people formerly posed, black and white, in some cases sepia. To this day, I have no idea who some of them were. I may never know, but I'd like to. It's too late to ask him. I was actually scared of my grandfather, so I probably never asked him anything. But there we were, a silent summer afternoon, turning the pages of this old family photo album. And when it happened, I saw a tear in his eye. Never saw him do that before or again. It freaked me out. No words, no actions, no response, no comprehension, just a little kid and an old man looking at snapshots of his mother. This is the privilege of being the first grandchild. If the cyber wars continue, and they will, the cloud is doomed. We will lose all of our images. Our ability to time travel will be eliminated. The silos are already targeted. But if we reestablish family photo albums, we would have a fighting chance for time travel. Each home in possession of a portal. This would be nearly impossible to dismantle in a cyber war. A network of portals, memory would be intact. Case study number 2. In a survey, people were asked if their home was on fire, apart from family and pets, if they could take one item, what would that be? The overwhelming answer was their family photos. Case study number 3. In a study of Holocaust survivors and their descendants, levels of cortisol were tested. This is the substance the body uses to combat stress. For example, PTSD survivors have very low levels of cortisol. In the test of the Holocaust descendants, cortisol levels were significantly low, suggesting that the stress of the Holocaust continues through birth, even though the descendants had no direct experience. What is the difference between the body and the family photo album? Case study number 4. In ancient times in Japan, you were born into your family's craft. Construction workers who used hammer and nail had a ritual. They believed that even though lumber was no longer a living tree, it still had the spirit of the tree inside. So before each nail was hammered, they would apologize silently to the piece of wood. Case study number 5. When I worked for the Social and Public Art Resource Center, coordinating murals across Los Angeles, and later as public arts officer for the LA Metro, I got to work with the late chiefess of the Gabrielino Shoshone Nations, Vera Rocha. I remember she told me that when the 105 freeway was opened, she and her husband, Manuel Rocha, were asked to give a blessing. They asked that they conduct the ritual before the actual press event because they didn't want to be photographed. Unfortunately, a press photographer of the LA Times came early and took a photo of the blessing and published it in the newspaper that week. Vera Rocha was livid. What was the violation? What does this tell us about the power of the image? What do we mean by sacred? Thank you. It's now time for announcements. Does anyone have an announcement today? If you do, please come up to the podium and say it in the microphone, not just for the Sangha here, but also people online.
Good morning. My name is Marvin Lino, and I'm a member of the volunteers at Japanese American National Museum. And I just want to remind everyone again, if they know any sanseis or niseis or even these days, if they're still alive, if they could be alive, that experienced being in one of the concentration camps during World War II. There is a judge from Santa Clara County named Johnny Gogo who is taking around 48 star flags to be signed by those that were incarcerated. And the next two places in Southern California where the flag will be signed will be at Janum on November 19th, which is a Friday, and also at the East San Gabriel Valley Japanese American Cultural Center in West Covina.
And I think that's all I need to know, except I do hope you can explain about, Alan's going to lead an art tour here through our temple, and certainly hope that most of you can stay for that.
Hi, I'm Kathy Kumagai. I'm the organist, but I'm also president of the temple. And I am so happy to thank Alan and Max for coming and serving as co-chairs today. We've benefited so much from having these artists be here in our community and not only document the Sangha and what has been here, but to draw out the stories of the many people who have been here and continue to go here. And it's provided such a wonderful cohesion and cohesiveness within our members, even though we have not been present on campus. So I really appreciate you coming and stepping up and doing something way probably outside of your wheelhouse and experience, and for leading us and showing everybody here and the wonderful work that you've done with the Invisible Tea House project here. For those of you who do have a chance to stay, there will be light refreshments served after the tour. And thank you to those who worked on it. I think Kyoko-san, Donna, those who worked on that, thank you very much. We also want to thank those who participated, particularly Sons of the Gardeners, yesterday in the donation drive of donated items. I feel like that was quite successful. And for next week, in addition to our Eitai Kyo service on the 14th, we also have a members takeout dinner tomorrow. So if you did order a dinner, that's available next Saturday, and it's sold out. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Thank you again. Turn it back over to our delightful co-chairs.
My announcement is, as all of you know, really, I've been talking about this for a year, but I'm in a group show at the Pacific Asia Museum. It opens this coming Friday and will be up till February 4th. As most museums, this particular one actually is USC, so there's a whole protocol. You gotta go online and reserve a space and answer a COVID thing, and it's kind of, but it's easy. It's easy. My exhibition is basically the display of a fake movie. Like, the movie doesn't actually exist, but it's as if you went to a movie house, theater, and the lobby had all this stuff from the movie, and includes a spaceship. And it also has a soundtrack. And on the soundtrack is our local, our many vocalists, including Amy from Side Street Projects. Shout out to Side Street. We got Side Street over here. And Joyce Kwan, who's sitting here, who's nice enough to come today, is also on the soundtrack. So I invite everybody, and I think we'll eventually organize a field trip with the temple members, right? So we have lots of time to do that. Thank you.
So as I think most of you probably know, I was commissioned to public speaking is not my forte. I was commissioned to build a new community events board sign out front, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And Bobby, I realized I didn't really give any cues for this little slideshow that I threw together very last minute, but I'm not sure what I'll okay. So that's obviously not the sign. That's the Sangha succulent wall that was a part of Alan's work in the residency, but was also an inspiration for the design that I ended up developing for the new community events sign. And in particular, I was also really, and one of the things that I gained both working with Alan and getting to spend time and get to know you all in this community and the history of this temple is the craftsmanship and all of the different skills that were a part of this community and the legacy of this temple. And so I really look to the woodworking of Sam Sakahara, who built this, and a number of the other older wood structures here. And, oh God, I based a good deal of my design on the repurposed structure of the Sangha succulent wall. I've had the great pleasure of admiring Sam Sakahara's work here at the temple, as well as at Michi's house, where I've been learning the tea ceremony under Salcedo Sensei's very patient tutelage. For this project, I chose similar materials to the materials I saw in the work of Sakahara's, which was redwood 2x4s and 4x4s, nice wood, beautiful joinery, but a simple, construction materials. This is an early imagining of what the new sign would look like. And actually, Michael, who's back there, put together this image that I made use of. I also got guidance from Kathy, Kyoko, and the SOGs in determining the practical solutions to making sure the design best served the needs of the temple by preserving the dimensions of the current community events board and working out the best systems for anchoring the sign to the ground, and also providing a bit of security. So in this design, it's not immediately easy to see in these drawings, and I apologize for that, but there's a framed window door that will be lockable, so that it provides a bit of security. I'm currently working on the sign off-site, fabricating all of the parts, which I will then, upon completion, bring over to the temple and will lead the assembly on site with the aid of Kyoko's sons, who she's generously offered for the task, as well as some assistance from the SOGs, if I can talk them into it, and anyone else, yeah, after lunch, and anyone else who would be interested in lending a hand. And so I just wanted to share that part of the work I'm doing. All right, thank you.
Are there any more announcements? If not, there's actually a final remarks that I'm supposed to read. Sorry, Max is taller than me. Thank you for attending today's service. If you have not done so, please burn incense at the conclusion of the service. Thank you very much. The tour will start on the porch in front of the temple. Thank you to the Sangha. Thank you to Donna and Kathy and Kyoko-san and Reverend for asking us to do this, which is a lot of fun. Thank you, Science Street, for coming. Yeah, Joyce and Michael, it's awesome to see you guys.
Oh, you might want to take a 5 or 10 minute break before
Oh,
starting the course.
Yeah,
The bathrooms are in the.
Thank you.
The end of the, you walk out that door, walk to the end of the hallway, and they're there or through the next building. They're all that way and that way. You'll find them. Thank you for coming.
There's signage.
There is signage. There's something, there's something.